Do we have to say this or type it?
I say it verbally. Yep.
Okay, I'm in my house in the living room, and I'm in here by myself, and I have a cough, so I didn't think anybody wanted me to cough there. So
Thank you.
yeah.
Go ahead, Steve.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. So I guess kind of the same. I'm at home in my office. I'm by myself or with my dog, if you count him. And I also am not feeling well, have a cough.
All right. Thank you. And again, just to remind myself and the board, we have all votes tonight will be by poll. First up is public input. Do we have anybody for public input? We have an email that I need to read. I'm gonna try to make it a little. All right. December 18th, 2023, to the Raymond School Board. Recently, the Raymond School Board approved the revised wording of policy BEDG concerning minutes. The policy affirms the following: under NHRSA 91A, the school board and each of the school board's committees, irrespective of whether standing or ad hoc, and irrespective of whether deemed a subcommittee or an advisory committee, is required to keep the minutes for every meeting as defined under 91A:2, Roman numeral 1, as used below. The board shall mean and include the district, school board, and each school board, and such board committee. The policy stresses the importance of minutes being taken for accurate record keeping of discussion and votes taken. However, why the district strategic plan was composed without official minutes being taken is an issue of concern. There are several directives listed in the strategic plan, including quote unquote homeroom and RAM teachers will call parents 2 times a day for introduction and check-in, end of quote. We have communication from several persons on the strategic plan committee who either do not believe this directive was agreed upon by the committee at large or the members responsible for the quote unquote parent and community engagement unquote section, or they question if this was actually agreed to. Without minutes and official votes being recorded, it is a disregard for the transparency which Raymond residents are entitled to. It is also much easier for board member, administrator, parent, or educator to dominate conversation and direction of the committee. Such was the case in this strategic plan. A recent REA survey is very revealing and worth your consideration. 1/4 of those surveyed believe these phone calls were advantageous to parent-teacher relationships. 17% said a parent expressed annoyance to receive a call with no real purpose. 9% were told by the parent they could not talk because they were at work. 3% said a parent told them not to call again, and another 3% said they were hung up on. 29% reported that a provided phone number was not active. 49% said they had to use their valuable planning time to make these calls, which took anywhere from 2 to 3 hours. 29%, 4 to 5 hours, 6%, or over 5 hours, 17%. This is worth an educator's time. There are many relevant comments teachers made. And these are all quotes. Parents were confused and concerned about answering the phone. No one seemed to appreciate the phone call. Parents seemed confused by the phone call and assumed that their child was sick or something was wrong. Although I think contacting RAM parents isn't the most effective as we have varying levels of connection with the students, I don't think it's the worst idea. What is the worst idea is mandating phone calls. This isn't the 90s or 2000s. If a parent connection is the goal and we have Parent Square to use, we should connect with parents via their preferred method. I don't have a problem with this, but I think email is a better way. is way better, excuse me. That's what leaves a timestamp, plus the parent can read it at their convenience. What was the whole point of this exercise, a teacher asked. And that's the end of the teacher's quotes. Perhaps parents should be given a say in how they wish to be contacted and what they wish to be contacted about. Because no proper minutes were kept on how this directive or the strategic plan as a whole was constructed. We believe the entire plan is invalid and needs to be rescinded and replaced according to proper policy. Thank you for your consideration. Bob Lemoyne, President, on behalf of the Executive Council, Raymond Education Association. Thank you, Mr. Lemoyne. And I was reading, so I don't know if anybody came in for the public input. I don't think so, but okay. So I'll leave the public input open for another, I think, 25 minutes. And if anybody comes along within that 25 minutes, they'll be allowed to speak. All right. First up, our students, our schools.
Yes, I'm going to fill in for Mr. Danable as he's downstairs introducing Mr. Lacasse, and I can't remember her name, but the new music teacher. So
Ellie Samuelson.
there we go, Ms. Samuelson. So Ms. Londo's got a few students here to talk about the career exploration field trips.
Thank you so much. So I'd like to start off by saying that this quote really kind of defines the foundation for how I run the program. Opportunities don't happen, you create them. So there's many different facets and components to the Excellent Learning Opportunity Program, but tonight we've been asked to talk about field trips. So I'm going to share with you some of the field trips that have gone on this year, and then I'm going to give the students some time to talk about their particular one that they went on and what they experienced on the field trip. So the first one, construction career days. This happens every year. This year, over 60 schools throughout New Hampshire went, and there's over 50 vendors. And Trey will tell you about him climbing that tower over there, something I was not going to do, but they have opportunities. They have the vendors coming in, they have the trucks, they have over 100 different vendors. And opportunities for students to experience going up in the lift, the tower, virtual welding. So it's quite an experience, and they offer it 2 days, and we each school goes on 1 day. And the next one, National Manufacturing Day, happens in October. And this company, there's one company, it started in Switzerland, the Bruckner Group, and they have a company in Dover. Dover is the only one in the United States. And basically what they do is they, companies come to them, they're looking for environmentally safe products. So the day we were there, they were showing the kids how, like the meat trays, how to really have a more environmentally friendly products for sale. So it was a really interesting, fairly new building in Dover. And we also went in October to the Healthcare Expo at Portsmouth Hospital. This was another one that there were probably about, I'd say 10 schools that participated. It was quite crowded, but it was a lot of fun. There was different departments in the hospital that the students were able to do a lot of hands-on opportunities and explore different departments and ask questions from professionals. We met with a doctor, and it was a very hands-on opportunity. And then Portsmouth Naval Shipyard, some of these guys went on that field trip. Super security. We were not allowed to take pictures, so these are the pictures that were approved. We had a really cool experiment there that they made this huge ram, but it wasn't approved for us to take home with us back here. But it was a machine that they used, and it was just like it was unbelievable how it was made, but that was not approved to take back for security reasons. But so that was really interesting. That was my first time attending there. And recently this month, we went to Job Corps in Manchester. And this program is for students that have financial hardships, and you can be 16 to 24 years old. So students could be in high school or after high school for post-secondary opportunities and learning skills. And they're very short programs. They could be up to like 8 months. They learn to trade a skill, and then they help them transition into the community. And then I have a lot of upcoming field trips. And you see, I try to have a diverse selection. I asked students to what they would like to explore. So we have cosmetology. We're going to the court system in February, which is really interesting. I'm going to go in with Ms. Nardone's class, hospitality month. There's opportunity in events management and events and hotel administration. And then she aviation school. And then in May, they do this every year, and you have the forestry career day at Beatrix. So those are the ones that we're looking forward to this year. So I will go back to where Fred is to my left. He participated. I'm not sure if he went last year. Did you go just if there? Okay. So if you want to basically talk about what you experienced and if you know you found it beneficial.
So obviously I went through this trip, and after this year, I plan to attend lineman school and become a line worker. And in that picture to the right, that's me. And I was actually able to talk to some linemen there, and there was actually multiple companies I was talking to. I talked to Eversource, Ciambro, Unito was there. I talked to all three of them. And they actually gave me useful information because I honestly had no clue how to get into the industry. So I was able to ask them questions, and I now applied to a couple schools actually, to get into their line worker programs. And not only did I do that, I was able to climb the tower. That was fun to do. And I talked to other companies like the local electrical union. Talked to him because I do have electrical experience. So going to these field trips, not only there's stuff that you want to do, but there's stuff that you can explore. Say like something doesn't work out, you can always have a backup plan by looking at all these other options.
Did Tona know you went up that pole while you were in football season?
Did not know.
Okay.
And Ryan went this year to the Portsmouth Naval Shipyard. So maybe Ryan, you could talk about your experiences and if it's even if students, if this is not the path they want to go in, it helps them kind of, you know, narrow down their interest. And so can you talk a little bit about what you thought of the field trip?
So I went on the Portsmouth Naval Shipyard, and even if you aren't looking into something there, there's still so many opportunities that you can look into. We didn't get to see like all of the trades that you can do, but even though the ones that we saw, they told you what you would do and like your schedules and stuff, and like how you impact on like making a supplement.
And we wanted to see the welding day. And I know a lot of us wanted to, but unfortunately there's some top secret something that was going on that day. So we were able to sit in it because I had a lot of students that are welding.
They're also very helpful talking about their program that they have, their apprenticeship program, and how you can like they have it online. They give us pamphlets. You can apply to the apprenticeship program, and then once you're there, you can explore all the options that they have there. So like if you don't know about like one of the shops they have there, because there's like a whole bunch of numbered shops that they have there. Because we went to the machinist shop, we went to the woodworking one. Yeah, we went to the woodworking one, and they all made sure to tell us that those aren't the only options in that, just by going broad on our experience and everything.
And if you started off with one and you were crazy
And
about
if
it.
you start
could
off with
also-
one, you can
yeah,
always switch to another one.
Mhm.
And once you're there, it's like an easier opportunity to get somewhere.
And Nate went on an awesome field trip, I thought, last year. Not this year. We haven't, I don't know if that's going to be in the works for this year, but Nate, maybe you could tell them where you went last year.
Yeah, so I went to a clothing and branding business / like warehouse. It was, I forget where it was, but basically they were in charge of creating like a brand recognition, and like they print all the clothes and the merchandise for different businesses, whether it's like corporate businesses or small businesses, like owned by individual. And it was really cool to go there because they had like multiple facets of like what you can do in that area. There were parts of the building that like they never even saw a t-shirt. They just handled straight like money and like coordinating with like delivery systems, or there were like manual labor that like unloaded the trucks, loaded up the packaging, or the people that were in like the art department that decorated the clothes. There was a lot of different things to do there, and it was really interesting.
Does anybody have any questions about any trips?
Questions, comments? Go ahead, Joe.
Can anybody go on these field trips?
Mhm.
Are they, I'm guessing an email goes out to the students that
I
way.
put it out there so many different ways. There's announcements. I put it on, the RAM reminder. I have calendars, monthly calendars that I post everywhere, like physically. And then I actually, the RAM teachers put it out, on Google Classroom for their RAMs. They either post it hard copy or it goes to the Google Calendar and RAM, the announcements in the morning, bulletin board. So it's, yeah, it's everywhere. Constant reminders.
As a student that goes as well, I also try to tell like my peers in school, it's a great opportunity to go. It's like, they're not sure, like if they don't want to go to college, they're not sure about going to college, if they want to do a certain job. It's a good opportunity for them to check something out.
So I try to hit all aspects because if I just did the morning announcements, you know, half the students aren't listening then, so that's why I do a hard copy each month. And it goes out there to every advisor. So we try every means possible. I put it on Parent Square, I put it everywhere. That's open to all grades, all ages.
Thank you. Anybody else? Tony, Nelson? Mr. Leatherman?
Yeah, I think this is amazing because to be honest with you, when I graduated, I had no clue what I wanted to do. I wound up going in the Air Force, becoming a heavy equipment operator, shoveling asphalt. Didn't know what I wanted to do out of the Air Force. Stood behind a buff and wheel for 5 or 6 years. My wife is the same thing. She was an aircraft mechanic, roads and grounds too, shoveling asphalt. And she figured out she wanted to be a nurse, and I finally grew up too. But it's just an unbelievable opportunity that you can, may not figure out what you want to do when you grow up, but definitely have a plan. Because unfortunately, when you do turn 18 or 19, it's time to grow up and you got to figure it out. So kudos to you, Holly. And kudos to all of you for taking that risk, chance, trying to educate yourself to find out what you want to be. And you know, maybe that's not what you want to be for, but for 5 or 10 years, we can do this. Climbing poles gets old, man. That's right, but man, only sometimes you got to use the spikes.
Go ahead, Joe.
I wish you guys would have got to see the welding at the Naval Shipyard. My neighbor actually is one of the welders there, so.
Yeah, because I had a lot of welders in the group and like, oh, but they planned on us, but when we got there, like, now there's some project going on it.
Well, thank you very much for coming in. Good job. Thank you.
I don't buy them ice cream. They're too old, man.
Oh, it's we have.
Oh.
I don't know, probably not.
I know little ones every so often.
I'll buy them myself.
There you go.
I got it.
Next up, Raymond High School senior class trip approval. Pretty presumptuous. What's that?
This one's my favorite.
Shocking. Go ahead.
My name is Renee Fontaine. I am the senior class advisor.
My name is Einam Lebeck and I'm the senior class president.
My name is Akia Gafford and I'm the senior class secretary.
And I'm Kylie Potter, I'm the senior class treasurer. Should we find out the packets?
I believe I sent the packets, but I
Got it electronically.
copies.
We have it electronically. I
So-
believe it's the same, right? It should be.
1220, right? Updated?
Yes, the
Yep.
one I changed
Yep,
today. Sorry
thank you.
about that.
No, that's good. Thank you.
Who has a quick information, just a quick overview. We are planning to go to Lake George in New York. And it will be from May 17th through 19th or Friday to Sunday, so we'd only be missing one day of school. We are going with Plymouth Travel, an agency that previous grades have worked with. Yeah, so there's a tentative itinerary in your packet. It's to the back. And I'll just like run you guys through like the general like idea of what we're doing, which it's subject to change if like the majority of the class agrees that like, let's say we don't want to do this, but we want to do this instead. Like we can make those changes if necessary. So, on Friday morning, we'll depart from school and we'll go to the Great Escape Amusement Park, which is, I believe it's right near Lake George. And then after that, we're gonna check in at the hotel and then get ready and we're gonna go on a dinner cruise. And then we'll return to the hotel for the night and then we'll have breakfast the next morning at the hotel. And then we're gonna go whitewater rafting, which should be fun. We're all looking forward to that. And then we're gonna do pizza and bowling for dinner that night. And then the next morning, we're going to have breakfast. And then we're gonna explore Canada Street for like shopping and boardwalk kind of stuff. And then on the way home, we're gonna go to the Ben and Jerry's ice cream tour in Vermont, which should be pretty fun. And then we'll come back home on Sunday evening. That's our plan.
Okay, so just to talk a little bit about the finances, we have about 40 students going, 39, probably 40. The cost per student will be about $500 to $600. Right now it's $569. We do have a decent amount in our class account that will help lower the cost for a lot of the students, so that will be great. We've created a payment plan, so they've made a $100 deposit already, and that was sent to the company with the understanding that the school board did not approve it, we would get that back. So we signed that, and I'm sure they have worked with school boards before, so they were prepared for that. So we've created a payment plan. So the first payment was the $100 deposit. And then there are 4 following payments of $130 to put the total cost students will pay at $620. And that's just with a little buffer in case the itinerary changes. We're also looking into hiring hotel security for the night. So just having a little bit of extra cushion with what we were having the students pay, so we could cover those costs without raising their price. So if anything, we're looking to lower it a little bit and continue some fundraising as well.
Okay. Our class has done a great job fundraising throughout the past 3 years. We also did end up getting a lot of money back from the DC field trip that we were unfortunately unable to attend because of COVID. So that has definitely been an impact on our account for the school, but we work really well together as a class to come up with field trips, get as much participation as we can. We did a bake sale right before school started. We made $500, in which all baked goods that we made on our own. But I just think that this is a really great experience because we haven't gotten that like class bonding thing that a lot of kids get in middle school. But I'll just say about the function.
I agree. These kids, they show up, they plan things, they come up with great ideas. They're really dedicated to creating a great class trip. So I'm very proud to work with them. They've been organized and prepared, dedicated to their positions on student council and for the class. So it's been great. Okay. So trying to make sure we cover everything. The insurance is included there as well. That comes through the Plymouth Travel Company. So those details are there as well in the packet. And also the Lake George trip deposit form that all students had signed as a commitment to the trip is also in there. So that's something we gave out when we initially explained the trip to the students, to senior class, and who would like to come. We gave them that. So most students committed and some students decided that they weren't going to participate. But I think we have a good amount of people coming and I'm looking forward to it. Are there any questions I can answer?
Did you want to say something, Kylie?
I was just gonna say that before we like put together the Lake George thing, we also like had our class vote on what we wanted to do for a senior trip, and majority of them did chose Lake George. So that's how we came up with the idea as well.
Okay. Questions, comments? I ask this question every time students come before us when we overnight trip. And you mentioned it, but I just want to clarify. What's the plan for overnight security? Are we taping their doors?
So yes, so I'm going to be looking into hiring hotel security and also taping the doors.
Okay.
And there will be 5 chaperones available. So if we need to take shifts to make sure that the floors are covered, that's something we'll do. We're hoping that hotel security will be able to provide that for us, but we are prepared to take shifts and definitely to take the doors.
Yeah, so we made sure to bring one more chaperone than like the required amount, because it is 10 to 1, we have 40 kids going, so it's 35 chaperones. And we're doing, because we needed another male chaperone, so we worked around that.
The comment.
Go ahead.
So at the end of every graduating year, sometimes you guys have money left over and it actually can't sit in that account that you guys have here. So it will be up to you guys and your class to decide where that money's gonna go, if there's money left over. And Miss Roman in the main office can help you guys with that.
Yeah, we've already been starting talking
Good.
about a senior gift, and
Good.
I know the past 2 years they've let it go a little too long, and they don't end up having time to get like a gift, so they just give the money to the classes
Yep.
below them.
Exactly.
We're hoping to do like a gift to have in this building for like
Perfect.
remembering things. I really like seeing like all the ones in the building in the class of 2012. It's like that's really cool. So we're really looking forward to coming up with our.
Good. That makes me happy. I'm glad you guys want to give a gift.
Autograph picture of Joe Burrow downstairs. That'd look good.
Who?
Yeah, I'm like, who? I don't even. I missed-
Man, broaden our horizons,
Do
you
you know?
know?
I'll paint it for you.
Thank you.
Oh, no.
I didn't.
Joe Burrow.
You'll have to show me later. All right. Get a motion to approve the 2024 senior class trip.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2024 senior class trip. I'll second.
Second by Joe. Discussion? Hearing none, I'll go by poll. Joe?
Yes.
Tony?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Go forth, have fun.
So much appreciate your time.
All right, next up, student representatives of school board report. Tyler?
All right. And got a couple of days. So last week, site council got to talk with the food services director. And that was a great way to see the student body like interact. Because the people they're probably interacting with the most, like all of the services outside of like teachers and stuff, right? A lot of good questions asked at the start. It's like that. So that was very good. And then this week, well, we had the great flood of 2023, as you know. But before that, Winter Carnival was kicked off. That was very fun. We had a game during Ram time, we had an assembly and all of that. And the seniors won. So yeah, that was good. That was fun. And you know, each day is different setups. From road. Whiteout? No, I don't remember. But fun little activities to get the student body involved and like engaged with the school spirit, you know. And then on top of that, we had another site council meeting, and a lot of that was actually a discussion about competencies because we have a diverse group. So like we have a couple freshmen, sophomores, and making sure everyone was on the same page because I do think we want to talk about that at some point or just get like a general consensus of like how students feel about that. Yeah, and then next on the agenda for them is to see if they can get admin and a student board representative to meet at some point. Just sort of have a open channel discussion. So you know what we do and they know what you do. So see that coming up.
Anything for Tyler? Thank you, Tyler. Next up, student services update. Jody, come on up. think of it from back here.
It's like, maybe I can.
Oh, yeah, you GMAC people don't have that.
That's right. I have one in my bag too.
Use basic technology.
Last time I did it, it took a minute.
Yeah, I was like, oh, she's got an adapter. Well done.
Forgot. Oh, great.
I'm surprised Europe hasn't required that by Mac yet.
Thanks.
My wife has that same problem.
Takes a minute. It'll. Come on, baby. Oh, yes.
You'll be able to sleep well, Terry, tonight.
Good evening, everybody. So I'll be talking about 4 things in the presentation this evening: data, funding, systems, and programmatic work for the social emotional learning program, and then student progress monitoring. Cindy, Steve, I can't see you, but I'm sure you can see me. I'm glad you're here because last we met, both of you in particular actually asked about some student progress, so I prepared some data for that.
That's awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. So this slide could be a little confusing if you've looked at it in comparison to past presentation information. So if you have questions afterwards, feel free to pull up the presentation I gave in the fall and compare the numbers. But I did change the numbers for the past years because I was provided some information from the state. The state pulled data, and I felt like their data is very consistent from district to district within the state. So I wanted to use data. I'm not entirely sure where the discrepancies are. I think probably for IEPs, the state pulls what is called an October 1st count. And what that looks at, it looks at all students that have a current IEP in place. So when you look into the software system, you might have, for basic math, you might have 300 students in the system when you look at the full count. But when you actually look at it, you might have 10 students in referral. You might have 20 students that families haven't signed the IEP yet. You might have some that are kind of in evaluation process and the IEP might not be in effect anymore. So in all those situations, those don't count towards the October 1st counts. So my thought is the previous data might have included some of the total numbers in the system and not just looking at and pulling out all of that information. The state pulls that information out. So with that being said, our numbers for October 1st for this school year look pretty low in comparison to last year right now. It's highlighted. These are the numbers that I'm able to pull. This is not verified by the state yet. That's why it's highlighted. So I'll be interested to see what happens when they verify it. However, I will say that the way that I calculated October 1st, 2022 at the 253 students is the same way that I calculated the figures for this year. So I'm inclined to think that that number is pretty accurate. We do have a lot of situations, unfortunately, in the system right now where we have a lot of IEPs that didn't get signed, or we're working on getting like implied consent situations, or due to like no signatures because parents have just had questions and concerns, because you have the option to sign the IEP in full or sign with exception. And then sometimes parents just don't sign at all. And a lot of times school districts will elect to do implied consent. The school district has not done implied consent very often in the past. We're starting to look at implied consent, but that also takes about 30 days before the IEPs actually
in effect because implied consent, what that means is after the family has had about 14 days to review the document and sign it. If they have not, we can then send home certified mail and make other documentation attempts to reaching them. And if we're not able to reach them in the best interest of the student, we're able to, at that point, after about 14 additional days, move forward with that IEP so that the student is still progressing on their IEP goals and services.
Sean.
Good.
So if they don't have their IEP consent form signed, and I know in the past you said we haven't, didn't apply these up. Did we still get the money from the state?
So the money that we get from the state is based off your October 1st counts. So the 201 was concerned. But again, that's my pulled number. That is not state confirmed. But I mean, as of December 11th, it was 232. So it definitely has gone down from last year.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Currently, there are 102 students with 504 plans district-wide, which makes up about 9% of the total enrollment, which is 1,152 students. Just to go over percentages, about 29% of the student enrollment are students with disabilities, 20% with IEPs. This is consistent with the fall data, and then 9% with 504. And again, it's based off of the current enrollment. Out of district placements, there's 19 out of district students. This is a combination of students, as we've talked about before, that are placed in special education programs, court-placed, foster care, legal agreements, and these are private schools. This equates for 1.6% of total enrollment and 8.6% of students with IEPs district-wide. In addition to the 19, you'll notice that this does not align with the report that Jennifer provides you on a regular basis. That's because there's also charter school students and alternative learning plans. So the difference is those charter school and alternative learning plan students. And then, as you know, the numbers change fluidly. And then just an update on the price range. Our current out-of-district placements range anywhere from $46,000 to $220,000, and that does not include transportation. It also, it does not include transportation. That does include any related services and special education services that the student might require.
Jody, before you go on, the plus the charter schools and alternative. So we have 19 out of district, and then we have school kids that are going to charter or an alternative. So are we allowed to know how many?
I did not put it in there because it's around the 10 mark. So I didn't get into the specifics. I can pull it after the fact and certainly share it with you if that's something that we feel is appropriate, but
Yeah, I was going to ask, is it kosher to do that?
Yeah, because it's not.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Do the 19 out-of-district students count towards the 1152 enrollment numbers?
yes.
Okay.
So is it safe
Go
to
ahead,
say
Steve.
then, sorry, is it safe to say then that the numbers for out of district is more like 29 total?
I believe it's slightly less than that.
Because it's 19 out of district, and then it's the other students that we can't identify at this point because we can't publicly say the number because it's too close to the 10.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, would that include like manifest hardship students, or is this strictly special ed? When it says plus charter school students and alternative learning?
So those would be potentially considered legal agreements.
So
Sorry,
yes.
can you say that last statement again?
Who, me? Oh, I was asking about manifest hardship, students going to other schools for various reasons, not special ed related. I didn't know if that was included in this slide.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry. I was asking for Jody's last response. It got garbled for me. I apologize.
Sorry, good one.
All right, now remind me what that question was.
You said legal agreements.
Legal agreements are included in the 19 out-of-district students, and legal agreements could include educational hardships.
So that's not all special ed.
Correct. It is not all special ed. John
Thank you.
has her hand raised.
Cindy does? Go ahead, Cindy. And just for Steve and Cindy, 1 minute, Cindy, just for Steve and Cindy, we don't have the visibility to see if your hand is up. So Jennifer's watching for us, just an FYI. So there's going to be a delay potentially in us recognizing you. So we apologize. Go ahead, Cindy.
Yeah, I figured out the delay because I'm watching the meeting on my phone because I can't see. I can only see the desk from here. But anyway, I was just wondering if there's ever do the kids move out of these treatments? Like, is there like or do you go by this at the beginning of the year and you stay with their diagnosis or whatever you want to call it? Or do they ever move out of that, or once they're in those special programs, do they stay in it?
Yeah, so it's all unique and tailored to the student. So some students might go out of district and stay out of district for the rest of their educational career. And others might go out of district for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, however long, and then come back. And if they do come back, it is often during the middle of the school year because it usually also aligns with the IEPs, and IEPs run for a year. So if you happen to have a meeting for a student and the student's making fantastic progress, at that time when you're redoing the IEP anyways, you might have a conversation about placement, and then the student would come back at that time because it's a natural time to come back. And IEPs don't necessarily have to run from September through June. So it could be anytime during the school year, but also recognizing that if a student's going to transition in the middle of the year, you've got to be very careful with that timing so that it's a smooth, seamless transition for that student. Did that answer your question, Cindy?
Yeah, I was just wondering if it ever happens or if that's just a hope, or is it, you know, I don't know. I just wonder how that works.
I have seen it happen. I have seen it happen before.
But it's kind of rare.
Doesn't happen as often as I think many people would like.
Yeah, okay, good answer. Thank you.
And then also just to kind of summarize this again, just so it's clear, the 19 out of district students, regardless of special education, not special education, the total of that, the reason it's grouped that way is those are essentially private schools versus charter school and alternative learning plans are public. So if you also look at from a budget standpoint, your 19 are built into your out of district private sections, and then the others are going to be in like public tuition.
I just know that it out of district comes up a lot in, you know, conversation, and it's come up in budget. So I just wanted to clarify the difference.
And that's why there's some information here. Numbers, and the next slide's going to also give you some numbers too, just because it's budget season. So the New Hampshire School Funding Fairness Project recently did a study, and based off of that study, they provided some information. A lot of it, which I didn't bring forward, a lot of it got into like the tax rates and establishing tax rates within towns, and how that funding is used and how it can be difficult depending on the town size for numbers. So I didn't bring that forward, and they didn't have anything in the project about Raymond specifically, but they did talk about just funding and special education funding. And right now, for 2024, our base adequacy for a student is a little over $4,000. And then for a student with an IEP, you also get a little over an additional $2,000 per student. And that goes to your October 1st count that we're talking about. There was a study in 2022. So again, a little old, but also gone up, not down. And the average cost to educate one student without an IEP at that time in the state was a little over $16,000. And then in addition, for a student with an IEP, it was an additional cost of a little over $28,000. And just to give you an idea of funding within the state, revenue has decreased over the last 8 years. Medicaid revenue is down statewide by more than $39 million, which is a huge impact to school districts and towns. The state is looking into new legislative service requests that will help offset, hopefully, the cost of special education. Now, when I prepared this information, it was based off of, again, this project, and at the time, these were still legislative service requests. It is my understanding, I do not have the exact numbers with me. I can certainly get them to you later if you would like to see them. But it's my understanding that I believe all of these, at least 2, have actually moved to a House bill number and will be looked at, all 3, will be looked at soon. So I think that that's good. The state is recognizing, individuals within the state are recognizing that there is a funding concern for special education. So one is looking at having the state pay for all special education. One is looking at increasing the special education adequacy grant, and one is looking at increasing the base adequacy for all students. And then there's just information for those people less familiar with how the process looks like, and for those within the community that want to learn more about it, there is a link in this presentation to read about how a bill becomes a law, and it goes through all the steps as far as legislative service requests to the House to the Senate to continue.
Go ahead.
The 39, was there any specific reason why the Medicaid revenue has gone down?
Good question. I would say yes, although I'm not entirely sure about the 8 years. I know in the past 2 years, Medicaid has made changes as far as what school districts can put orders in for and what they can get things signed off on themselves without having an actual physician sign off on some of the services. So the last couple years, Medicaid revenue, every district in the state has gone down a considerable amount because we can't bill for the same services that we could bill for 2 years ago. But I'm not sure where the 8 years came in.
Is this a state issue or a federal issue for the Medicaid?
I think it's a combination, but I do think it's from a federal standpoint, but I'd have to look into that. I don't want to misspeak.
Jen?
Steve, my Steve.
Steve, go ahead.
Thank you. Just the question I have is about, you said you have 2 costs here, average cost for a student without an IEP and then one with, but it says additional costs. So does that mean that the total cost for a student with an IEP is the 28,000 or is the total the 44,400?
The total would be the 16 and the 28 added together. So the 44.
The 44. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and Jody, the 3 bills are for the 2658 legislative service request is HB 1670.
Did write that down. Yep.
And then
16.
2623 is HB 1656.
Yep.
And the 2209 is HB 1583.
I had those, but I wasn't.
No, that's fine. And I just so that people at home also have it.
Thank you.
I caught the last one.
The first 2 are HB 1670. And then HB 1656.
Thank you.
Yep.
I also believe there's a House bill to form a committee to look at state funding as well.
Huh. Probably not.
There's an hit me. There's an hit me.
No, I was just surprised that, it's only been decades in the making that, so.
We'll see where they go though, right?
We'll see where of course, I won't get into the court case, and what the response from the state was, politics. Oh, I can go there.
That's good.
Oh, it's not the first time. Oh, won't be the last. Go ahead, Jody, sorry.
That's okay. So this has been presented before, but just as a reminder for programming, in district social emotional learning placements, we have 3 what we call at-risk programs. Those are open to all students with and without disabilities. The program is called the PLANS program at the elementary, the RAM at the middle school, and REAP at the high school. Although I will say that we're looking at renaming the REAP program at the high school. We're working on getting some student input right now on that. So we'll be interested to see what they come up with and what we decide to rename that as. And then there's no self-contained programs right now for social emotional. I brought that up because I'm getting into some more specifics of what we're doing right now to try to support these programs. So a lot of myself and the deans, a lot of our time has been in trying to support and restructure these programs so that they're a better alignment and that they're supporting the students and tailored for the students today and what the students need. So we've been working on just the systems as a whole. We're trying to be more proactive and preventative versus reactive. Some of the schools are, they're just kind of stuck in that reactive mode. Just in part, there's a lack of resources. In part, there's just some challenging behaviors right now in some specific schools. So we're just seeing that there's a lot of reactivity. So we're trying to work on having all systems in place so that there's plans in places. So that, again, we're being proactive and preventative. There has been looked at school-wide response protocols, which is kind of looking like some schools are using level 0, some are starting with a level 1. And basically what that looks like, there's a leveling system, 0, 1, 2, 3. And if there's a challenging behavior, what's considered a challenging behavior within the classroom, in most cases, the office is called, and then they're determining who is going to call and respond to that behavior. So if there's a behavior coach within the school, they're responding first and foremost. If there's the lead behavior coach, is only one, but if they're in that school, they're responding. The SEL teachers for the programs, that should be a comma. The BCBA and then administration is last to respond. What was happening is administration was getting called for kind of all levels. So we're trying to really streamline that. There was not a call system in place that was being used before. So we have seen that this has at least alleviated some situations even being called. And then it's alleviated administration have to respond as often as they had been, and then going to the classroom saying, this is really a level 0 classroom management. And then we have developed parent letters that were sent out for students that are accessing the program should they get permission to access the programs, because sometimes things that are done in the programs look a little bit different. So we also want to make sure that parents are on board with that plan and on board with the fact that they're going to be out of their regular education classroom to some degree. And for some students, that's, you know, a significant amount of time right now. And for some students, that's, you know, just quick check-ins and check-outs. And then we've been working on behavior plans, behavior support plans, FBAs, things done by the lead behavior coach and our behavior consultant right now. We're trying to streamline the SIT process to discuss student concerns. At most schools, they get together on a weekly basis and talk about students and then figure out how to best support those students. And then ensuring that students have intervention services. In particular, we noticed that some of the students that were having a lot of challenging behaviors weren't having kind of, again, that preventative counseling support, that time to talk about kind of dysregulation and what escalates them. So we've been working on getting them weekly group of appropriate individual and then lunch bunch as needed, the counselors and social workers on a monthly basis. So we brought Ceresc in. I had mentioned this earlier in the year. They've been working with all the buildings, and then they meet with the district once a month and looking at just, again, systematic, programmatic needs and supports. Some of it is figuring out things that sound very basic, but they're not. is figuring out like, what is the criteria to be able to participate in a program? Because it shouldn't be a catch-all for all and any students, like in the moment. It's not a place where a student is having a bad day, and in that moment, that student accesses the program. There's targeted skills that the student is lagging in, and there has been a team to talk about that student would really benefit from having social emotional learning skills taught to them on a regular basis, and that's why they're accessing the program. So Stress has been helping with that. There's been some really good conversations. I've been attending all of those meetings, and Sam Morgans have been attending all those meetings as well at the building levels and the district, so that we can see the conversations from building to building and how they align, and that we're there so that if one building is talking about something very specific, we can talk about how does that fit in with the other buildings as well, because the end goal is to align the program K through 12 and develop similar strategies and documents. Questions? I'm happy with the progress that's being made so far. There's still a lot to do, but we're moving ahead. So I'm getting into some data, student progress data. So first, I'm just going to give some background information. So I mentioned a little bit earlier that IEPs run for a full year, and each year goals change, and then we can make amendments as needed. Sometimes services change as well. Specifically looking at the middle school data, that's the information that I pulled first. Each student has between 1 to 9 goals. The average student has 4 goals. Each goal has benchmarks. Those benchmarks, typically the skill set is progressing. That's what the benchmarks are for. And then sometimes they increase in educational rigor. Goals are unique to each student, and progress is often subjective depending on what the measurement tool is. Typically, students are more than 2 years behind in an area if they have an IEP, and then goals help close the gap and support students access the regular education curriculum. This is just a little bit of background information for you as you start to watch and as I explain how I looked at the data and what it means. Do you want me to read every goal, or do you want me to pick like one goal to read? Do you want to read the goal? These are just some sample goals, and I pulled them from IEP so that you would actually see like real life examples of how we have to write goals. And I tried to pick goals that kind of vary within skill set. They obviously get more advanced depending on, again, the unique needs of the student. But I didn't want to give just like phonemic awareness. I wanted to actually show you what a goal looks like in an IEP.
Could you, Jody, just maybe show the 2 of them and not necessarily read them, but just discuss why they're worded in the way they are, the importance of why, that type of thing, if you could.
So the state, I don't have the template on me, but the state has a very specific template that they require to determine a measurable goal. And within a measurable goal, you have to be able to have like a certain date, the student's name, and then how you're going to measure it. So are you measuring it on a weekly basis, a monthly basis? Are you measuring it by observation? Are you measuring it by some assignments that you're keeping track of? So all of that is going to look similar in goals. And then you're also looking at the like percentage. So a lot of them are 80% accuracy or 90% accuracy. Sometimes you will see like 100% accuracy. So those are kind of the standards that you're going to see in most of the goals as far as the state requires this type of measurement. And then the goals themselves are specific to the needs of the student. So if you're looking at a student with a disability in mathematics, depending on if it's application or word problems or calculations, you're going to have a goal specific to that. So for this specific individual that was looked at, it had to do with 2-step addition and subtraction word problems. So understanding what to pull. So not only just understanding how to do the addition and subtraction, but also understanding how to interpret
a word problem. And then I'll go to the last one on this. So also, some students require some support with their fine motor or gross motor skills. Often we hear that associated with PT or OT, so physical therapy or occupational therapy. So for some students, they might just be working on functional mobility and balance by stepping over objects, walking up and down stairs. That's kind of a basic example of that. So within every IEP, there is progress monitoring that is done on a regular basis. It usually goes along with the reporting period. So for the middle school and the elementary, most of the IEPs are based off of a trimester. And then within those documents that are provided to the families along with the progress reports, there are what we call benchmark codes. This is going to be important as we go on to the next slide. So I'm going to take a little bit of time to actually read this. So NI is not introduced. So that benchmark has not yet been introduced to the student for various reasons. Sometimes they're not introduced yet because they are progressing skill sets. So maybe the student has 4 benchmarks and the IEP is brand new. So they're only working on benchmark 1 and they haven't started working on benchmark 2 yet. For the data within this presentation, I am not reporting the not introduced in here because in many cases it was simply because the students really haven't been working on them yet because it's a progression of skill sets. And then I also did not look at data if the IEP was developed in the last month because it's not giving enough time to really be able to say if the student is making adequate progress as well. It took a lot of time to pull this information. So I was trying to make it as simple to understand and also really giving like a fair picture of what's going on within the schools. AO is attempted only. So the student has been presented with that benchmark. They're trying it, but they really can't see any progress at this point, but it's been introduced to them. And then PAD is partially demonstrated. So sometimes they are able to demonstrate it, sometimes they're not. Sometimes that's more when you're working on like generalization of skills. Sometimes they really get it in one situation, but then they can't carry it over to another situation. So like if they're working on it in a group or not a group, an individual therapy session, and they're able to do it one-on-one with maybe a teacher, but maybe when they're in a group setting, they're not able to demonstrate that they're able to do it. And then PED is performance demonstrated and M is mastered. You do not always see an M in IEPs. And I think this is where some of that subjectivity comes in because when I ask people some of that, they're like, no, the student can do that. But they just didn't do mastered because I think sometimes people think like mastered is that like 100%, you know, if you're like grading a paper, that's like 100% sometimes they're a little careful to say that it's, you know, that there's never gonna be a situation where maybe the student's having an off day and they're not able to do that. So you also will see on the next slide that in, I put together your PED and your mastered for one of the pie charts just to show you kind of how the student is progressing. I would consider anything a PED or an M very good for the student. And then there's different goal types. So you pick a goal, again, it's a software-based system when you write the IEPs. So you have to pick the category that the goal fits into. So I put down all the different areas that teams can choose from when they are planning for and writing a goal. So you can have academic, communication, community, content, deafness, growth motor development, hearing, language arts, math, occupational therapy, physical therapy, reading, school participation, self-help, social behavioral, speech and language, transition, vision, vocational, and writing.
Go ahead, Joe.
The paraeducators have enough time to put all these goals in on a daily basis that they're with the people they're working with?
For the tracking portion?
Yes.
I would say some are very good at tracking, and I would say others are not as good at tracking. And some of that is, I think some of that is just because the day gets busy.
And if you don't carry something around with you, you don't necessarily able to say the progress that's being made. And I think for some people, they kind of think about it after the fact, but it's not just paraeducators that are tracking things. So in certain situations, the paraeducators would be tracking kind of everything. So for students that have discrete trials, for example, so your students with autism, those paraeducators are tracking on a daily basis because they're doing discrete trials and we need that data. A lot of the goals that you see within IEPs themselves that are really being presented on in this slideshow are goals that your regular education teacher might be supporting, your special education teacher, your therapist. For the most part, it's your special education teacher and your therapist that are tracking the information. So if they're pulling, there's a service grid in the IEP, and if it says they're going to meet with the special education teacher 2 times a week to work on math, the special education teacher is keeping track of the progress that's being made with that student in their session. And then they're also, they're communicating with paraeducators as needed to see how they're doing with the classroom. And they're also communicating with the regular education teachers to also gather data, but they're not necessarily tracking it on a daily basis.
And all this is tracked digitally, correct?
Depending on the provider, some are still done the old fashioned notebook way. And then they share that information. So like if a para is going around and like tracking something, they share that with like the special education teacher. And then eventually that information gets shared in the progress reporting document. So the information is put in electronically and into the system, and then that is provided to the parents to see. But while they're actually tracking it, like in the moment, not everybody is walking around with a device entering the data.
I heard the word provider. Is that outside providers or us?
No, sorry, just like OT, PT, speech. Some of them are outside providers, some of them are employees.
Or is it the outside ones that are having it that have to do it the old fashioned way?
No, I think it's kind of individual preference as far as how people prefer to do things. It's also some of the data, depending on how it's being tracked. If it's being tracked in like a notebook, it's within the sole possession of that individual's. It's in their sole possession until they have a time to like actually dissect the information and then put it out there. So it's not really information that is readily available to other people until they go through it. And I think for some people, they just like to hand. It's a combination. It's not easy for me. Like if I said I wanted to go look at, weekly information for, student A or student B, I would not be able to just go pull that information. I would have to be asking multiple people to share that information with me.
That seems,
Yeah, would it be better to have everybody go digital? Because if you have an issue with a student and you're trying to look back to see what happened that day, and you can't see the data and you have to go to everybody else, that just takes even longer period of time to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, as long as people are communicating with each other, that the data is still getting in somehow. It just might not be getting in on the day. A lot of people are using Google, and they're just accessing Google and putting information in. But again, there's certain things that aren't being tracked on like a daily basis that maybe only the special education teacher really needs to see, right? So if the special education is working on that math goal and they're really the only one that's working on that math goal, they might be tracking it in their notebook. And then when it's time to present that information to somebody else, they're putting it out there in a readable format. But they don't need to worry about collecting information from somebody else. They might be the only one working on that. So we haven't gone there yet as far as please everybody do this. It hasn't come up, and yeah, I don't know. I'd be interested to see how people would receive that message going forward. If we were to ask everybody to do the same thing electronically. I don't know if people would like that or not like that.
I mean, the teacher wise, yeah, I mean, because every day is going to be, like you said, a little bit different. You might not hit that goal. behavioral wise, I would imagine that in my mind that we should be going digital with all that stuff. So if anything happens, the administration could go back and just look at what happened the day before, during that day, what maybe set this person off, not set this person off.
So I would say through the work that we're doing for the SEL programs, if a student has like a behavior plan, so again, similar to a discrete trial, in those instances, I think the data is being tracked on a daily, regular occurrence. And I think in most cases, I think those are electronic because there are multiple people dumping into that document. But as far as like a speech goal that only a speech provider is doing, or a math goal that only one person is working on, I think a lot of times those are still done the old fashioned way.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so based off of all of that, so student growth for the middle school out of 506 benchmarks. If you look at the one on the upper right, again, I combined the PED and the M, so the mastered and the performance demonstrated. I combined those because I would consider that like, that's good. The student has made progress. They understand what's expected of them. They can move on to the user. So 506 benchmarks. There are currently 32 of those benchmarks from various students have been attempted only, and then 153 are partially, and then 202 are performance demonstrated, and 119 are mastered. I'm going to jump to the next slide for a second, and then I can jump back if is needed, but just to continue on that. So that information is based off of 61 students. So there's 506 benchmarks for 61 students, and that also is 232 goals. So 61 students have 232 goals, which have 506 benchmarks. I'm looking at the benchmarks individually. Now, this is relevant because I also looked at the reporting period. So again, most of these students are trimester based. 20 students are still on their first reporting period, and most of that aligns with the students that are still in the attempted only and your partially demonstrated categories. So overall, students are making good growth because most of your students that again just started are the ones that account for the areas where you're not seeing as much progress, and that's to make sense. They're just starting on those goals. And then your top 4 categories of goals. Remember, I went through all those different areas that you could pick goals in. The top areas are just basic academic goals, speech goals, reading, and then math, self-help. I will go back for a second so you can look at that again.
Could you clarify the upper right-hand pie chart?
Yes.
The PED/M is 63.4, if my reading can find that. Does that mean it's 63.4% of the 506 benchmarks are at that level, or is it a different number we're looking at?
No, it's the same 506. I just grouped them together because I would consider that performance demonstrated and mastered are very good growth.
No, I understand that logic. I was just making sure I understood the graph.
Yep.
So if you do the math, it's over 300 benchmarks are at that level. Correct. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. I also did an analysis of the elementary school. This analysis took a lot of time. There's a lot that goes into it. And I think the individuals from buildings as well that helps gather this information. Because I didn't pull every single progress report and analyze them. I started off with like a spreadsheet that people enter the information. So for everybody that helps me, thank you.
So I didn't dig into the data quite as much for the elementary school because I wanted to really give kind of a snapshot of some growth because I know that that was requested and kind of asked about at the last meeting that I presented at. I can certainly gather more information for future presentation, but elementary doesn't get into all the specifics. I didn't look at all of the reporting periods, and I also didn't look into like the top areas. But for the elementary, there were 48 students, 210 goals, 487 benchmarks, and then you'll see the categories similar to how we were talking about before. And then I will say for the elementary school, a lot of the students are new students with new IEPs. So they're also a lot of the special education teachers or therapists or individuals working with the students are still kind of getting to know the students and building relationship and rapport as well. So I think that's probably a little bit more why there's some there's higher numbers of attempted only than there were at the middle school. And then I did not get into high school information. I did not prepare high school information to present for tonight. Like I said, I can certainly present that moving forward. If anybody is interested in that information, it would look similar in presentation. I don't know what it would look like as far as benchmarks, numbers of students, and goals. High school works on a different reporting period. The high school focuses a lot on transition and vocational support. So your goals look a lot different than at your elementary and your middle school level. So I felt like that would be more appropriate for a different presentation if you were interested in that information. Should I continue, or John, you look like you're thinking?
I'm all good, thank you.
And then for your out of district students for progress monitoring, again, there's currently 19 students that we would progress monitor. We would do progress monitoring on for the students that are at private schools. Depending on the school and where the student attend, each school kind of provides progress reports in their own format, and it's based on their own calendar. The dates look similar, but it looks a little bit different. It might not be the same time that middle school is going out or elementary school is going out. And the format sometimes looks different. So if their format looks different, we don't always enter that into our system, just accept the format that they've provided in. The deans and myself serve as the LEAs for the out of district students. So we attend meetings virtually and in person. A lot of the meetings are becoming in person again now that COVID is still around, but it's not around to the same degree, right, as it was. So now in-person meetings are becoming more common and more acceptable at out-of-district placements. Up until, I want to say, about 6 months ago, most out-of-district placements still were opting for a virtual meeting just because they were trying to limit the amount of visitors within their programs as well. Some of the placements have students with like medical conditions as well. And then we compile and complete the paperwork. And then that looks a little bit different for New Hampshire schools and Massachusetts schools. It takes a lot more time to prepare documents for Massachusetts schools because they work with a different system and they will not input the system into our system even if we give them access. So they basically give us their version of an IEP in goals, and then we have to put it into what that would look like in New Hampshire, which takes a lot of time as well.
Who's the customer in this?
Exactly. And that is the end of my presentation. Happy to answer any questions you might have. I can go back in any slides.
Questions, anybody? I'm looking to Jen just to make sure. Okay. Thank you very much, Sam.
I'm sorry, Steve just raised his hand.
Okay, go ahead, Steve, sorry.
Sorry, I was slow on the draw there.
No problem.
First of all, thank you. That was awesome. Great to see the progress that the students are making. My question really is on the last slide, and I know you don't have a ton of of detail here, but do we have a sense at all from these updates as they come in from these other schools and other districts, how the students are progressing? Do we get a sense that they are progressing as well as we have of the students we have in-house? And there's been a lot of conversation, especially with budgeting, around the out-of-district placements and potentially bringing students back. Do we have a sense that that is something that we might be able to start doing?
Yep, good question. So yes, I would say that the students that are placed out of district are making progress and making good growth and progress. Again, there's some students that are going to make progress at a slower rate than other students, but overall students have been placed for specific reasons in out of district placements, and they are doing well in the placements that they're in. If they're not doing well, the IEP team comes back together and says, if it doesn't seem to be working well for the student, let's talk about other options. And that might come from the district starting that conversation based off of, we looked at the progress reports and the student doesn't look like they're doing well, so let's have the conversation. Or sometimes the placements will reach out to us as well and say, we don't think we're the appropriate school for this student. They're not progressing the way that we would like them to progress. And then I can't speak if there's any students, currently that would be potentially coming back to the district. The conversations do come up at the, if nothing else, at the annual IEP meetings as far as, is this placement appropriate to continue at out of district, or would it be appropriate to start talking about transitioning the student back to the Raymond Public Schools? So those are conversations that happen, but I can't speak to the specifics of anybody might be coming back just because of the numbers, if that makes sense. There are conversations happening. Does that answer your question, Steve?
It does. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Right, Tony. Yeah, I've commented on this before about the bringing students back, and reviewing. So I think it's important to note that if you look at something on paper and say, all right, the student is doing good, that may be just as good a reason to keep them there as it is to try to bring them back.
Yes.
At the end of the day, right? So just because a student is progressing at their out of district placement doesn't necessarily mean they're ready to come back.
Great point.
And I don't want to, in our haste to cut the budget and reduce costs, pull kids back too soon.
Yes.
And cause a whole other bunch of issues in district as a result of that.
Yes, I appreciate that. The student would have to be making regular growth, continuous growth for the team to be considering the conversation of bringing them back versus, the student just mastered, 4 goals. They've never made mastery before. Like, let's talk about bringing them back. We can celebrate that success and we can talk about it, but the conversation probably would not be, okay, let's try to bring them back right now. It would be, let's see if we can continue with this, and then we can continue the conversation.
Yeah, that's a great point, Tony. I was the implication would be that they would be ready to come back.
Again, thank you. All right, next up, energy efficient investments. We had talked about this on a few occasions, and now we're hoping to wrap it up so we can formally put it in the budget. So I'll let you, that side of the room, discuss it, whichever two.
All right, so the lease amount for year one is $317,880. The savings is projected to be a total of $58,700. The high school would be $31,200, middle school would be $27,500, our initial energy savings. So the total budget impact for year one on the lease is at $259,180.
Which is 20 cents or so.
Which one?
The
269, yeah, ballpark. 260 ballpark, yeah. Go ahead, Joe.
Do we have to vote on this particular one again? I know the next one we would, but because this one I thought we already approved going with the lease.
We did, but we didn't have a number. Well, we did, but we didn't have what the cost savings were gonna be, and I just thought it was important that we solidify those two things, because we have to put in the budget the 317,880,
Yeah.
880, and we also then have to reduce the lines, the appropriate lines in the amount of 58,700.
Yeah.
So those two things have to happen simultaneously.
That would be for the next. That would be for F. Do we have to vote on E again? What do we just have?
It's the board's pleasure. I just put it in their action so that we could sort of solidify what we're doing in the actual intent. Because when we talked last week or the last time, my memory is that we were using in generalities the numbers because nothing was solidified, or not everything was solidified. So
I'll make a motion that we accept the energy efficient investments lease. For year one of $317,880. With a projected savings of $58,700 for a total budget impact of $259,180.
second, I'll second. Second by Tony. Discussion? Yeah, I want to make sure that everybody understands, the public, that we're putting in a line for $317,880 for a lease. What we're doing then is taking out money, for example, $50,000 for LED out of electricity. So we're reducing one line, even though you're going to see $317,880 as a line. Elsewhere in the budget, you're going to see those reductions. What I think is just as important to understand, though, is that the $317,880 is going to be in the budget for 20 years going forward. And we're not seeing those numbers. We won't be seeing savings as a result in year 3, for example. Year 1 and 2 will be seeing, we should have seen all the savings at that point. And my point is that, for example, going back to the LED, you're going to save 50,000 in year 1 and say the total electricity budget is 250 for the district. In year 2, we're going to budget 200. So I don't want people thinking that the budget the cost impact is only going to be $33,000 because we're doing a cost avoidance after we realize all the savings. Am I explaining myself clearly or not? I think I am, but Margie, am I? In the sense that it's been explained, I think, that we were going to see, it was only going to cost us like $33,000 year 1 and through 20, but in essence, it's really not, because we're paying that, but we're going to see a savings in year 1 and 2, and then we're going to be still paying that 317 number.
But you're gonna be saving the bottom line. For the bottom line over time.
Yeah, we're not increasing on the expenditure side on facilities, things.
That's a drop.
And it will stay at a lower level than it would have if we hadn't done the project.
Correct.
I just want to make sure people, it's because I had somebody ask me about it and they were thinking that it was going to cost us only like 33,000 1 through 20 years, and it's not.
Bottom line, it should.
Yeah, I thought that was,
But not the way, when we do our budget, we're going to have a line in there every year for $317,880.
Correct.
Going forward, like I said, year 2, electricity under my scenario, because of 50,000, year 1 is 250, we budgeted. Year 2, it's going to go down by 50. So it's now 200. That's all I'm trying to convey is that it's not saving us each year.
Yeah, you're not gonna see a compound saving.
Correct. That's what my point is. Compound is the way to look at it. There we go. There we go.
Right.
There's gonna be initial and then boom, you're gonna.
Then it just
Correct.
becomes the.
Right. And that's what I think is important for people to understand. And I just wanted to stress that. Go ahead, Jen.
Steve.
Go ahead, Steve.
so there will be more cost savings, at least the way I understood the presentation, that 58,000 will essentially carry from year to year, right? So we won't be using that electricity because of the new LEDs. So that 58,000 will be reduced for the 20 years because we won't re-incur those costs across the 20 years, right? So it's not like in year 5 we're going to switch back to inefficient bulbs. We'll stay with the efficient stuff. So that reduction should continue. But I thought he also said that the net should go down to 33 for the 20 years. Was there, I guess I'm not understanding, where is that now not coming from?
No, I think the savings will still be there. I think right now, for this one, it's just the LED lights. I mean, if they have the LED lights and they end up putting the solar panels up right away, that would see more cost savings than we're projecting right now.
But does that 50 get applied every year to that 300 number to then get you to that 30 number?
Ultimately, budget wise though, here's the deal. Let's say you have $100,000 for electricity.
Mm-hmm.
Year 1, we've budgeted $100,000 this year. We're gonna put the LED lights in. Our budget's gonna drop to 50,000. Default budget wise, we gotta keep it at $50,000. We can't go to $100,000. And again, so the bottom line, over time, let's say you have a, keep it simple, $100,000 budget. You invest that money, the bottom line is gonna drop overall on your energy costs to pay for it. So net is 30,000, but unfortunately that default budget will drop. So it's, in my mind, it's a bottom line item, but it doesn't compound. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because
Right.
once you see the savings, those savings are going to continue. It's just going to be the same
Correct.
amount every year.
I mean, it's just like Londonderry. We, once they put those boilers in, we save money, but that energy savings, he went from, can you say it goes from one line to another line, but it's less.
Right,
So you
but
see it
the
the first
net,
year, not the second year. And by not seeing it, you're actually seeing it.
yeah.
That's the
that's what I
tricky
mean.
part.
It's already there. I mean, that's what it is. I mean,
Steve,
Yeah,
did you have something?
Yeah, sorry. That's sort of what I'm saying, right? So if it's $100,000 today and we put this in place and it becomes $50,000 tomorrow, for the next 20 years, it'll still be 50. The default budget, like you said, Terry, the numbers will move where they get allocated, but the savings that we are seeing will in fact continue for 20 years. They won't compound so that we get an extra. So next year is 100,000, the year after is 150. It'll just stay 50 across because we are no longer using the other 50,000 for electricity.
Yeah, your
And then-
energy
and then
savings
in
is
year
financing
2
the project.
Right. But then in year 2, 3, and 4, as hopefully the solar panels and everything goes in, our savings should actually increase because we'll be reducing our consumptions even further, correct?
Yeah, the hope is we will realize the savings within all of the savings that we would see in year 2, by year 2. Obviously, year 1, solar panels wouldn't be done on July 1st, and we wouldn't see that savings then, nor the boilers, those big, heavy, not heavy, but big involved tasks,
Money.
getting them, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I want to make sure people understand is that it's going to take some time to realize the savings that we do have, but yet the budget isn't going to see a reduction here on these particular lines. You'll see them in year 1 in electricity, and then I don't remember what the other things are, but also the boiler and the solar will affect more likely year 2 than that. And I just want to make sure that the other part being that Mike is still confident in the grants and rebates that he's laid out for us.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. And then the other thing is that I talked to Terry today and asked him to get an updated cost sheet so that, which is fine. And then, so that we as the board can have a clean picture as to what we have. Yeah, what we're doing as opposed to all the potentials out there.
Option 7,
Right.
9.
Exactly.
and if I remember correctly, Mike also said that, that year 1 and 2 could be prorated depending on what equipment we can get in here and stuff like that, or
Yeah,
when
at
we
least-
gonna start?
I mind the first thing that needs to go in is the solar panel, because that's what's fun in it. Put the solar panel in first, so you're gonna start making money. You know what I'm saying? So there could be an additional savings if that's the first thing to put in, because that's got to finance.
Right, but it won't,
I know, it's because,
the way it's, the solar panels designed is set for 70% of our need.
Yep.
Because he's gonna, I think the number was what, 22% reduction in electrical because of the LED.
Yep.
So he said, you know, it wasn't gonna be a 1-for-1, but we're still,
Yeah.
saving in the long run is what we're doing. I just wanted to try to clarify some misconception, I guess, out there. Anything else? All right. All those in favor of the motion? Joe, sorry, I'm used to that.
Yes.
Tony?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Motion carries unanimously. All right. Thank you, Terry. Marjorie, next up. 2024-25 revised operating budget, because we're revising it as a result of the action we just took.
would you like me to read it? Okay, on to,
You don't need to, unless you're gonna add something. So in essence, we need to, and Marjorie will work the numbers where they need to be, but add 259,180 to the bottom line. The resulting budget amount would be the 31,000, yeah. 31,041,741. Zach? Yeah. Any questions on that? Go ahead, Joe. You have a-
I have a question, since we just did the first one for 317,880. Should that next one go to?
So at the last meeting, you guys did approximately 318. So that's why we took action on the one before, is to get the
I
updated.
was looking at the wrong one.
Oh, okay.
Skip over me.
All right.
Never mind.
Never mind.
All right.
I was like, oh God, what do we?
So the 256, 259, 180 is the same numbers we used above. Okay, I just wanted to make sure I had it right in my head too. Okay.
I was looking at the 318.
No, I saw that too. And then once you said it, I go, oh, did we do something? But we're all good.
So I'll make a motion that we revise our operating budget to reflect the energy efficient investments. The new revised operating budget will be $31,041,741.
Second.
Second by Tony. Discussion? One thing, after we take action, if we can make sure we get it to the budget committee, you know, what lines are changing and basically the who's and what's and all that. Thank you.
I have to, after this, I have to finalize the slideshow for the public hearing.
Public hearing.
So I will make note of all of that.
Okay. Well, I was thinking more just to get it so that they're aware of it before the second, that's all. Thank you.
Send maybe some of this information over as well, give them a better understanding of the special ed cost too. They might be interested in seeing some of this stuff.
All right. Any other question, discussion? All right. So, all those in favor again, I don't know how else to term it, but anyways, Joe,
Yes.
Tony,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
myself, yes. Now, just to clarify, the recommendation is still 3-2, or is it going to be, would it be different? Then my vote would be a no.
I would say,
The recommendation is, okay,
so you,
mine,
You,
I support the addition, but I don't support the budget.
you're approving the amendment, not the budget itself.
Well, that's what I just wanted to find
Yeah, we
out.
went through this.
you might want to do another motion that or some way.
No, that was, you're just approving the.
The addition.
Yeah, the change.
And that's what I just want to make sure, because when
Revising
we
number.
present, I want to make sure that,
So does Cindy understand that?
what's that?
I think we want to clarify with Cindy too, then.
How was would you read the motion, Jen, just to clarify?
Move to revise the operating budget to reflect EEI. New budget would be 31,041,741.
So that just approves the addition of the number, not, it doesn't change anything to the way you voted on the,
That's what I don't want to do, is I don't want to give the impression.
that's not the way I would interpret.
You don't interpret it that way? Okay.
I would actually say that if you were approving this amendment, it actually lists that it results in an operating budget of 31 million, which would you be approving of that resulting operating budget?
I'm going to revise my vote.
Terms, I look at it that way too.
I will say no then. Like I said before, I support the amendment. I don't support the bottom line.
Cindy.
Cindy, do you understand what we're talking about? Because originally you had voted no on the budget. And now we.
Well, the
increased
thing
bu-
is, this is
Which is
how
fine.
I
I just want to
see
make sure you're fine,
it.
Cindy.
Okay. Yeah, I want to keep my votes the same, but the way I see it is we voted 3-2, so now we vote according to what the majority voted on. Like, I don't change my original thought on the budget, but if we're going to go with what we have now, then I vote in cooperation for how the vote was that I didn't really vote, that I voted no towards. Does that make sense?
I'm confused, but so Cindy,
Well,
but
we
the
voted
question becomes
3-2.
just to be clear, when it reads on the operating budget, when it goes before the voters,
Mhm.
hypothetically, the budget committee approves our budget, it would read that the board originally approved it 3-2. Under the
Mhm.
vote as it stands right now, it would read 4-1, and the one dissension is mine. Or are you saying
How did that change?
because we increased the operating budget tonight, and the vote is to approve that specific bottom line of $31,041,741. So for me, I'm saying
Oh.
I don't support that bottom line. I support the addition, but I don't support the bottom line. So I just want to make sure you understand what that means. That's all.
Can we get legal's opinion on this for future reference? Because I didn't interpret that motion to then negate his previous vote. I took that as we are updating, because we went through this Monday, updating the actual number to revise it to reflect the changes. But we didn't vote to approve the budget. You voted to revise it.
Yeah, but I think that was numbers like last year that came from Marjorie. That then they went like huge changes. I mean, we're actually adding something on, which it was just stuff there that was slightly different.
Okay. So the bottom line,
Well,
Cindy, is
yeah.
you just need to be comfortable whatever way you want to vote, which is up to you. I just want to make sure you are comfortable. So you're saying yes to the vote,
Well, I voted no to the budget,
correct?
and I voted that no to putting this project in the budget. I wanted a warrant article.
Yep.
But both of those lost. So now I mean, I don't know. I just see it like I have to go with, if we voted yes on it, then
Okay.
I mean,
If that's your vote, that's how you feel. That's
but
fine.
I mean, I feel like it's two separate things. It's not.
All right.
Yeah,
So just to
I
be
agree with
clear,
Tony.
When we go in
Sorry.
front of the budget committee at the public hearing, it will be a 4-1 school board approval of the budget.
Well, then I wanted to be no then.
Okay. There you go. All right. Done. So the motion passes 3-2.
Thank you.
Sorry for the confusion. We caused.
The number you're gonna present.
Motion was just to add this into the
But,
budget.
and you're voting on that final number.
Right.
I disagree with. all
Okay.
this.
Yeah, actually, can we, I agree with Tony. Can we actually get legal's weighing in on that? Because I'd be interested to see how that splits, especially where we just did the line item above it. Talking about that specific number. So,
So
yeah,
in my
I mean,
mind,
it's where it is right now. I'm just curious.
in my mind, there was a 5-0 vote on that, but there's still a 3-2 vote on the final number.
On the operating budget.
That's what I'm saying.
Right, and we just voted unanimously to add this
Yeah,
to the budget
which you
that
did.
they did not approve.
Which you did in item, I got it alphabetical here. E.
Right.
Which you did.
But that shouldn't affect the vote that they made previously.
No, it doesn't. That's still 5-0. That vote is
I'm
5.
saying
Well, he's talking
3-2
about the
vote.
3-2 vote that we did at the last time we are talking about the operating budget.
Right.
Yeah. Anyways, Now it's 3-2. The motion,
You can ask the legal at the deliberative session, so you don't have to pay them twice.
because at this point, yeah,
Well, we had the exact same situation happen on Monday and we all kind of agreed that that was two separate things. We had,
I'll ask
I would
Gordon.
love to know what
Yep.
it says.
Yeah.
All right, I don't know if you can do this.
We can do anything.
We'll do legal and we'll have to talk about it on January 3rd. If it changes. Right? My vote didn't change, so. I know, but Cindy might. Well, that's mine. Well, yours might change too, because you said, until I said, you changed it, so it could change. It might not now. If it saves us legal, then.
$500.
Okay, all right. Okay, thank you, both of you. All right, next up. Warrant article dehumidifiers. Joe had asked to have this on, so I'll let Joe speak to it.
I mean, it's just something I haven't heard. Other alternatives. I mean, this is probably the biggest issue, especially in the last couple summers that we've heard of.
It'd be a nice touch, just saying that on behalf of the school body.
Also, looking down the road, there was, and I don't know if it actually went through, I haven't looked on it, a possible proposal that they were trying to put through the state, saying if it got so hot inside a building, or certain parts of the building, that you had to cancel school.
Does that mean the state is gonna fund the improvements to fix those conditions?
No.
Oh, I'm shocked.
You just get to make up those days in the hottest part of the year, naturally.
That makes sense.
Right, why wouldn't it?
Yeah.
It's too high.
And then you get,
Anyways, is that legislation being put forth or is it?
I heard something about it. Again, there's so many things.
No, I know.
Yeah.
I just, because it's different if it's in the legislature, that's different than if it's
Yeah,
it's cheap.
I don't know how far it got.
Right.
It was there when, months ago when they were talking about it. I haven't looked it up again, so. Looking at this right now, I think I would love having it here. I'm not saying I wouldn't love having it here, but right now we don't have any other alternatives. Like Chester actually has the ductless heating systems on outside of every classroom. It actually didn't cost them as much as this.
that one in the room over there works pretty well.
It does.
But so what does it, my only issue with this is dehumidifiers are not air conditioners. I mean, they'll lower the temperature slightly, but those rooms are still gonna get hot over there.
Well, he said you've been to the.
Yeah, but again, I wouldn't know about that wing where it's just getting.
Sun all day long, right?
Yes, that I don't know.
I mean, it's still gonna get warm in there. It might not be humid, it might not be 100, but I don't think dehumidifiers are gonna solve the heat issue.
No, but as they say in Vegas, it's a dry heat.
I still don't like heat.
Yeah, but again, Mike said too, to put central air in here would be astronomical because the ductwork, we'd have to look at something, ductless, like they did at Chester or something. You couldn't do it because the ducts aren't big enough.
I've been getting told for the last 3 years that we have a plan in the CIP coming up, next year?
It's like 25, 26 year or something. We have it.
I thought it was closer than that, but
We can look at,
either way.
it's in the works for years.
I just like, after I started thinking about it, we haven't seen that other alternative.
Look that, no,
Looked at. So if we could get other alternatives and we know approximately how much this one will be. And it's $3.8 million is a lot of money for dehumidifying the air.
But you can get a mini split for probably 2,500.
Well, that's what I mean.
Right. That's worth looking into.
Heck, you could put two in if you were not allowed to have plenty of air conditioning easily.
mini split 2,500.
Oh, I mean, for one room, they're not that big. What are these rooms? 400 square feet, maybe?
They're 900, gotta be
900 usually.
Splitting hairs here. Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
We use them at my work, big steel building. They look fine.
Yeah, I mean, it's something we could look at.
So what is your pleasure? Joe?
I would just like to look in,
Alternatives at this point?
over the next year,
Yep.
so we can have something for next year.
Just over window units,
I still think-
something to keep these people from having to deal with hot.
I'm gonna be quiet right now. I am surprised that somebody hasn't looked at doing that, especially in those four wings, those two buildings.
Like that specific area, it's not like it's a whole
Yeah.
building issue. Like,
Window, I don't know, but yeah,
See, it would be nice. All I'm saying, even just a little like box,
take the edge off.
window box, yeah. Little
All
something.
right. Anything else? No. Next up, 2024 Raymond High School graduation day. Tonight's the year of back in 2024.
Currently, our last day of school would be June 13th. It's a Thursday. And so typically graduation is on Friday. So that would be June 7th, but we are real close to that 5th day. So this is me. How hard are we that it has to be on a Friday if we run into trouble?
Tradition.
I know,
Yes.
but it's either June 7th or June 14th. Which is,
Yep, yeah. Go ahead.
I believe the way this is actually read is that you can make up your graduation day, without consideration of making up those days.
Yeah, I believe
In the 5 days.
I believe it is, because as much as I don't like the law, I think the law is that you base it off the last day of your calendar that originally started, which would be the 11th, I think. Because we added a day we moved,
consideration.
the January 23rd date and the most recent Leatherman flood.
Oh, thanks. Thanks. Yeah.
Moved it to the 23rd.
Yep.
So again, my druthers would be, we would have graduation on the 14th to get as much education as possible. But I know your recommendation is right now is the 7th, is that correct?
You don't like it though.
Okay. So what would the board like to do?
you know me, they could graduate tomorrow.
Going at it.
How to win friends.
I like the 7th. I'll make a motion to have graduation date set to June 7th, 2024.
Get a second?
I'll second that.
Is Joe and Tony amendable to adding a last day of school for because I just don't want to see school ending for the seniors in May. I think we should be getting as much day as we can. So I would propose the Tuesday of that week, which would be the 4th. Because they have 4 days of finals.
Don't remind me.
Huh?
Don't remind me.
APs, you don't have to have a final. You won't have a final.
So you're saying they're gonna have the finals?
Really? Wait, was that advocated for?
That's the rule now.
That's the rule now, that if you have an AP class, you don't.
Oh, you have no clue how happy that makes me.
Someone get a 3 week.
We're looking out for you, Tyler.
Right.
I'm saying finals are gonna be the 28th, 29th, well, no, 20, 30, 31st, 3rd and 4th.
Whatever those,
That's weird.
I don't have the calendar. I'm pulling up my calendar now, but that's what I would ask.
Thursday, Friday, Monday.
Because, I mean, to me, it just, to me, doesn't make sense that we're gonna potentially having high school students go 10 days longer. Right now, it'd be 9 days if we would do our traditional graduating on the 7th. Their last day would be the 31st. That's how we have done it the last number of years. So all I'm asking is that we would have the last day for seniors would be June 4th. The finals would be the 30th, 31st, 3rd, and 4th. If you guys are amendable to that.
Was that changed the 7th graduation date?
Well, you guys, you know what you're planning on doing that last, because I know you usually have activities.
I'm not sure.
They have, in years past, depending on with COVID, have been interrupting things. So, but I don't remember exactly last year. I know in years past, they've done breakfast, they've done
Six Flags.
Six Flags, but they're doing their trip in May, where last year didn't have, I don't think had a senior class trip. The year before did not. And they do a lot of March practice. Now, in the past, they've also done practices in the afternoon because they've got finals on that Monday and Tuesday, but
It take a lot of practice.
I think they practice that week. Usually if they have the full week, they do 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
They also do the, they go visit the elementary school and middle school. I don't remember. And here.
Yep.
I'd like to wait on that one just to see what they're doing. If they're doing anything, if they already have plans that they're supposed to be doing stuff. I just don't want to make something that I don't.
But I guess my concern, Joe, is that we're losing valuable education time. That's all. And we're here to educate the kids, and right now it would be, if we took it, the last day of school, the last final would be the 31st. The rest of the rest of the high school is going to be the rest of the district is in school for 9 more days. So anyways. All right. Any other discussion? All right. Joe?
Yeah.
Tony?
So wait, what are we doing?
We haven't.
Nothing's changed. The motion is to graduation June 7th.
Nobody did.
I asked.
Oh,
And it
sorry.
wasn't-
Oh, I thought you were.
No.
I made a motion on it.
You made the
Yeah,
motion.
I guess.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you made the motion for the 7th and Tony seconded
You
it.
didn't have it on.
I didn't know. You did. I'm so sorry.
No, I asked. It wasn't changed.
I mean, if that won't affect, so your word is gonna affect activities I have planned?
Yeah.
If.
I
I'm
mean,
just,
I know.
If it means earlier graduation, I don't think the seniors will mind.
I'm gonna defer to him. What would he rather do? I mean, I don't have to come here and do it.
If you ask the senior, do you want to end school June 4th or May 31st?
Yeah, I'm not the one getting up every day and coming here.
What would you say, Tyler? Go ahead. What would you say? Thinking about your other 60 classmates.
Yeah, think about it.
Final.
That's what he's here for, to represent them. Let's have it.
Yeah. All right. So the alternatives you're saying are,
The last day of school would be June 4th for you guys,
okay,
or May 31st, which would you
May
prefer
like me specifically,
for your senior class?
Your senior class.
class as a whole.
See, this is where you have to put your
And
own thing aside and then think about the greater good. This is the hard part of being in your spot.
So
I'm surprised it's taking this long that May 31st isn't coming out of his mouth, but that's,
Well, he's putting an honest
It's
thought
right at the
into
tip
it.
of my tongue.
there you go.
Can I ask while he's thinking?
Yeah, we're not gonna, yeah.
Another week.
I'm sorry, what's that, Steve?
Can I ask while he's thinking, what was the original date of graduation? Was it the 14th?
No, there is no date that's been established for the class of 24. This is the time that we're establishing the date. And Terry's recommendation is the 7th, which is what the motion is right now. I just asked if historically the district, once we do this, the high school then sets when the last day is. And I've just not, I'll be honest, appreciated the days that they've chosen. Because that's me. Anyways,
Okay.
So like,
what's that, Steve?
I just said thank you.
Yep.
so how would that change like finals?
Again, if you're senior and the last day was the 31st, you'd have finals on the 31st, 30th, 29th, and 28th of May.
And then it would be over. And then we'd just have graduation.
So whatever activities you guys have lined up for the week of the 3rd, graduation being the 7th, class night the 5th, Wednesday night,
So yeah, 3, 4.
and all the other activities that are going along. So
That week's gonna be lit. As the kids say, lit.
I don't think they use that word anymore.
Hey, they still do it. Don't make me look bad. Come on.
Hey, appreciate the attempt.
all right. All right. So the motion is, again, graduation for the class of 24 would be June 7th. Joe said yes. Where are you, Tony?
I'm gonna say yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Yes. So 5-0 is the vote for you guys to graduate. All right.
And just next time, come back with anything that you might have Because we can put on the next agenda the last day of school.
I'll rely on Terry to provide that information if it's what the high school is thinking about doing.
We'll talk with the class officers to see if we can get like a pullout. Just see. Hey, do you want your last day to be the 31st or the 4th?
You don't need to do that for activities first about what we're doing. So,
That too.
yeah, that's, yeah,
Yeah.
all right. I mean, we could go, yeah, May 1st or May 31st. Well, May 1st, we're out.
You had your chance.
So, yeah, you had, yeah. Now let's, let's look activities.
All right, next up, SST Seacoast School of Technology 2024 to 2028 agreement.
We've come together multiple times. Basically, they talked to, what's his name? Jeff Beard? Oh, I can't remember. I pulled that out of the hat. This is his recommendation of what the contract needs to look at. Tom over in Sanborn, the superintendent, ran it by his legal, which, reputable legal, so that we all got together. We signed off at it, that we all agreed with legal advice, and this is the agreement that he came up with, some certain changes, but this is the 4-year agreement that he came up with. I don't think there's anything really odd or out of the ordinary. It's just a typical, oh boy.
Questions, comments about the agreement? I will talk about their letter, the numbering system, but on the pages, it's an interesting adventure. But anyway.
Well, it's 7 of 3.
Yeah. Any questions, comments on the agreement?
I thought she was too.
I do, but what's that?
No, I thought she was supposed to change. We told her to
that.
change the numbers.
On page 5 and 6 of 3, so basically pages 5 and 6. I'm trying to get there. The last sentence of that one paragraph, number 4, it reads, a student who demonstrates proficiency in the embedded SST course or program competencies and who is determined to have met the content area academic standards required by the high school shall have such credits counted toward the required program area for a high school diploma. What does that mean?
So basically that means, and there's certain classes that we over there say that if a kid is in it, they can get an art credit or art competency there, as well as an art competency here. That's in general terms is what I'm saying. Like a math class, if there's a certain math class, sometimes a kid can show that they are competent in art competency as well as the SST competency. So they don't have to take the class twice or prove that competency.
Wait a minute. So are they getting double credits?
Not a credit, but competent. They say credit here, but it's competency.
Right, but right, but it all comes down to credit.
I do believe they can also get credits for certain areas of them.
This is what I'm trying to understand is, are they getting double credit?
They're not getting double because
Okay, so for example, if you're doing a math, like you said, or it's a class in whatever, and you're allowed to use it for a math credit in your high school, whatever the credits are you're getting here will be applied to the high school to offset your math credits of 3, I think.
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, something like that.
It's not double,
No.
like a better way of saying double and counting the credits.
No.
That's what I didn't understand.
I thought it was more competent, but they were talking competencies too. Yeah.
And then on page 6, under, sorry, I'm not laid out as well as I thought. Page, I think I've got this wrong, so I might be all wet. Anyways, sorry, I'm trying to figure it out because of I think it had to do with, it talks about that the chairs of each board are supposed to meet on a yearly basis in there.
I did not read that. I read this twice.
And I'm saying,
It's number 6 on page 6 of 3.
thank you. 603.
Which one is it, Tone?
Number 6. Hold annually at least one joint meeting with the chairpersons of school boards of the receiving district and sending district to discuss the planning, development, operation.
it's on a designate.
Right, but
Or designate?
it's never been done then.
Well,
Because I've never been asked, for example, last year, I wasn't asked as a chairperson, right, but he's part of the governing body, not my designee.
This might be something new to the contract. I don't think it's been in the contract before, has it?
I don't know.
I don't.
And that's what I'm just trying to understand is this new or is it had been in existence and we just weren't doing what we're supposed to be doing?
I couldn't tell you, John.
Now that it's in there, now we know.
Where's the old contract?
I
And I've read that one, but
Okay.
yeah,
All right. Those are the questions I have. Anybody else? All right. If we get a motion to approve the SST contract for 2024 to 2028, 4 years per state mandate. You don't have to put that in there, but
Yeah, oh, if you,
local control at work.
you have to fix the numbers on those
Yeah.
pages. So, you know,
Well, I like the cover sheet is 1 of 2 and then it goes 2 of
There is a
3 and
sign
then
sheet. We're gonna have to get that signed because we need it by January, so they'll have to cut the bottom out on somewhere on the signing.
I'll make a motion to accept the regional agreement for SST for years 2024 to 2028
I'll second.
Second by Tony. Discussion?
as amended, sorry.
Oh, the numbering, page numbering? Oh, okay. All right. You okay with that amend as
I'd like to
amended?
keep the numbers, but yeah, I'll be fine with that. I'll keep
Add a little spice?
it,
All right.
keep it interesting.
Any discussion? Just trying to wait to make sure everybody, okay. Tony, Joe,
Yes.
Tony,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
and myself, yes. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Next up. New revised policies, first reading. First one is EBBC, indoor air quality. We had to, by statute, add some language and this, policy reflects those changes. Questions, comments on EBBD, indoor air quality? Yeah. All right, next up. KFA conduct on school property / assaults. As per New Hampshire School Board Association, these revised and restructured policy, most notable changes included adding language regarding use or reckless attempted or threatened use of any object whatsoever, including firearms and knives to reflect the 2022 enactment of RSA 159-E. And it goes on, but that's the pretty much statutory, to be in statutory compliance with this, with policy. So questions, comments on policy E or KFA, conduct on school property / assault. All right. Very good. Next up. New revised policy, second reading, ACN nursing mothers accommodation. This was revised quite a bit. Any questions, comments on that one? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we accept policy ACN nursing mothers accommodations.
Second,
Yeah, I'll second.
okay, any discussion? All right, Joe,
Yes.
Tony,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
and myself, yes. Motion passes unanimously. Next up, second reading of EBCC, bomb found or threats. There were no changes from the first reading. Get a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept policy EBCC, bomb found or threats.
Second,
I'll second.
second by Tony. Discussion,
I have a question.
go ahead.
Should we, going back to the conduct on school property, I know it's slightly different, but should we put a reference in there to this policy as well to the
What's that?
Should we put a reference to this policy as well at the bottom? Because people might look at the conduct instead of looking at this one, and vice versa.
Not sure what you're asked. What policy are you referring to add reference to?
Policy, KFA, the one that we.
Okay, I'm sorry. That's what I was missing.
You know, put a little notation on it, you know, for these, you know, it's, since you might want to check out this policy, and vice versa.
To me, they're separate. But
Yeah, but they also talk about, I mean, was it the, you know, an object that possesses, you know, well, I mean, guessing a bomb would not be an object that you're supposed to put on school property.
That's be a no-no.
Wait, what was that?
I see the one that we just talked about earlier, the KFA, it talked about, you know, bringing weapons and stuff like that in the school.
Yeah,
And then we have the policy that talks about bomb threats.
References the RSA at the bottom. And JICDR.
I'm just wondering if we should reference. Yes, they are two separate things, but they kind of.
this pertains to threats, right? Not so much weapons as
Correct.
threats, like, so a person can have a gun and you can see the gun on that person, but if they're not waving it around in a threatening manner, then it's not a violation of the previous policy. It's just a guy with a gun. Which it states in the policy that, you know, the mere sight of a gun or the presence of a gun,
doesn't mean it's a.
right, doesn't constitute a criminal act or a violation of the
Violation of the
policy.
policy. Hmm.
It has to be in conjunction with action or,
Of threat,
right, or intent.
intent, whatever.
And just bringing the gun on the school property for student,
A student, yeah.
Yes.
It specifies non-students.
well,
I don't think anyone's allowed to bring a bomb on school property. I mean, that's goes without saying. Yeah, so I mean, I'm not sure what the issue is.
well, if you don't see an issue, that's fine.
The state says that a legal gun owner can bring a gun onto school property as long as they're not being an idiot.
Not, yes or no?
Yes.
Only for public hearing. I don't think they can
No,
bring one on.
anytime they come, you cannot infringe a person's right to
Yes, they
carry a gun onto school.
Somebody
property.
wants to show up, if, I'm just gonna use Tony as an example, if he wants to show up and
As an example.
dismiss his kid and he's carrying, we can't do a thing about it. He can walk in here,
It does violate federal statute.
correct. But the local,
We local at this point, but there is court cases in other states that have said that local can.
yeah,
So
Hampshire.
it's gonna have to be sorted out at some higher level than.
But if I come
here.
in with it in my hand yelling about
Oh,
critical race theory and this and that, you
Game
got a
on.
problem. Yeah, that's an issue.
Yeah, well, yeah,
I know, it's not, you know,
I'm good. Just, you know,
You all set, Joe?
I'm all set.
All right,
Right,
get a
right.
motion?
Can't pick and choose them. Motion to approve?
Yeah, policy EBCC.
I'll make a motion to approve policy. All right.
Oh, he did?
I'll second
Oh, I'm
that.
sorry.
Second.
I missed that step. All right, so we've got a motion to
So what part of,
approve in a second. Any further discussion? Joe?
Yes.
Tony?
yes,
Cindy?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
And myself, yes, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Next up, monthly financial update. Marjorie.
The financials before you tonight are through November 30th, 2023. The revenues are now in there since the DRA has approved them. And as you can see through this point in time, we have received 32% of our revenue 5 months into the year.
Say again, I'm sorry, the last part.
We've received 32% of our revenue through this point in the year for 5 months.
Anybody questions on the revenue side?
Waiting for you to have a question.
I'm good, thank you. I didn't hear the last part, that's all.
That's okay. Your summary of general fund expenditure by object code. Right now, we're showing that we're in the black about $6,300. I have reconciled the salaries and benefits that I continue to do on a monthly basis, as we're monitoring these very closely. We have about 20 plus positions that are still open in district. So I have added $100,000 only to that additional encumbrance line in hopes of filling some of those positions. We have a couple of long-term subs. We have 21 open well, 22 open para positions, including the preschool. And I also added $100,000 to health insurance. Just in case those positions are hired before the end of the year. If we find out in a month or so that we don't think we're going to be filling those positions, then I'll start releasing that money as well. But that's what I've continued to do this entire year and every year for the most part, hoping that some of those positions will be filled. You can see that there's $325,000 left in professional student services for students. And we still continue to be in the hole for student transportation and for student tuition.
Questions for Marjorie on expenditures?
I have.
Go ahead, Joe.
So right now we are projecting to be $764,000 on the budget. Or is it the 6321 that?
You want to look at the 6321. The 764 includes the grants.
Okay.
And I haven't so I think what used to happen is you guys used to only get the total general fund expenditures on this page like a long time ago, and then somehow this started getting there. So I actually don't keep track of the federal fund expenditures on the bottom of this tab. So those haven't been.
My question was going to be, I figured it was the 6321, but it was $2,500, I think, last time we looked at this.
Yep.
You said you released $100,000 from two things. So what went up? $200,000.
So I'm trying to make sure that the additional encumbrances, there are some things that people were not able to encumber. So I'm trying to make sure that there's still money there in case we need repairs. In case some of our service contracts go over and stuff like that. So that additional encumbrance right there is me trying to figure out what people are going to be able to spend possibly. Those are not encumbered at this point in time. But I'm saying if something happens and we need to buy that stuff, then at that point, we're going to have to use it. And it's there in case we need it.
So the encumbrances are already inside the lines?
So if it just says encumbrances, that means it's already accounted for. There's a purchase order in place for it. But there are certain things like supplies. The secretaries couldn't go through and purchase all of their paper, purchase everything that they need, their ink and everything like that. Those were not in place. Because we went on a budget freeze so early.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah.
But, so those were not encumbered in the last monthly report, or they were?
They were, but I'm trying to make it as close to zero as possible, trying to figure out what we're going to be able to do. So I basically go through and I look at your detailed object codes, that page, and I go through each section and I'm like, okay, how much money are we going to possibly need for repairs? How much money are we possibly going to need for contracted services, making sure that the equipment leases are accounted for. So I'm basically going through those lines to figure out how much money is left. The posted line, those weren't encumbered. Communications, Those are already in the red. Printing, we haven't done any of that. So I literally have to go through the attached documents and try to find out, you know, science supplies. They're gonna need some stuff when they get into the spring for dissections and stuff like that.
All set, Joe?
Might have a question in a minute, but yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm done with you. You had asked last month about the paras and how we were so tight here. I went through and I analyzed all the salary lines. And if I single all of those out, we are $444,000 over on some of those salary lines. Granted, we have some that are left
Over as in we've overspent,
over budget, yeah.
despite the fact that we're under 20 or we're not. So all those other paras are making $400,000 more.
Not the paras, it's the teachers, right?
It's a combination.
I'm just asking about paras.
Yep, so the paras we have significant savings on.
That's what I'm asking.
Yep,
Because last month, it was like $400,000 that was out there and I just was asking about that.
there's still about $400,000 left for the paras.
Okay.
I did see in this last payroll that I reviewed this week that we did hire a couple more, but I think one of those has already left. So it's just one of those things I'm constantly keeping track of on a daily basis, but for the most part, and I can pinpoint some of them for you, but for the most part, we were hiring people this year. Also, when we go through and we cut money, when we're going through the budget process and you tell me cut $250,000, that money has to come from somewhere. So
Yeah.
I can pinpoint those lines as to where those lines went.
Right, but the budget is still the same,
Mhm.
right? I mean, regardless of where they come from.
Yep.
Okay. Of the expenditure side, where the detail is,
Yep.
page 3, the salary is a positive variance of $713,554. And then on the last page, Marjorie, you've got those encumbrances that you added, I think, last time. And that's ballpark 466,000.
Correct.
So I took that number and subtracted it from the 713 and I get 247 ballpark.
Yep.
247,000 as a positive. And that's what I'm trying, because up above, it's less than 100. So I'm just trying to understand where the 150 ballpark.
So there's certain ones that I don't know if they're not encumbered correctly in Munis or not, but there's differences that show up. And that's when I'm trying to adjust for them in there. Sometimes those encumbrances are either not encumbered fully, or there's a weird proration because somebody started halfway through the year. So we kind of like have to prorate their salaries differently, and Munis doesn't pick it up that way.
The encumbrances on that last page, is that salary only? Or is that also including retirement, FICA? Because obviously that's significant money.
Yep.
If it's not included.
Those are just the salary only, and I account for those when I go through and I do the FICA and then.
I just want to make sure I understand, because then it's almost like 20% probably, at least, depending on if it's a teacher or a
Exactly.
para.
Correct.
Right. The other thing is you had mentioned about whether we think we're going to be hiring more people. Terry, at the high school, we lost our tech teacher and we haven't replaced, is that correct?
He's coming in. He's been working as a sub. Yes, he's good. Yes,
We think we're going to be able to hire. Okay. Okay. That's one of the things I was just plopped in my mind. And the reason I asked the question is because at some point we need to put a stake in the ground and say, in my mind, do we really think we're going to be hiring all these people? And if not, then does the freeze need to continue? And that's my concern is that whether we need to continue with the freeze.
Because we also so I went through that list And like, to me, $100,000, like if we hired all of those, obviously that $200,000 isn't enough.
Yeah, depending on who you hire, yeah, they can go fast.
But we're looking for 2 long-term subs right now. We're short 1 special education teacher.
Mhm.
The tech ed teacher that you just mentioned. And so I was trying to account for all of those. I even went as far as to calculate if we hired a para as of 12/1 for all of those positions and counted how many
That'd
days would
be-
be left, right, on an average salary. So, and
And the reason-
and then the tech support specialist. So I'm trying to account for all of those.
Yeah, and the reason I'm asking the question is because at some point, right now, we're in the freeze. At what point are we gonna make a decision whether we're gonna continue in the freeze? Or is the freeze gonna continue into, into the spring, when we have even a better idea? That's what I'm just trying to get at, is to at what point are we getting comfortable or not with the budget where it is? All right. Go ahead.
Question for future years. You've been here for a little while now. Should we be looking at different software other than Munis?
So it's been on my mind. But honestly, it's hard when you get a new software, it takes a lot of time and effort and overtime. And I would have to depend a lot on my staff for that. And my staff is hourly. So I would have to pay them overtime to get something done because they're already overwhelmed with their jobs that they already have. I was hoping to use the part-time HR Fed Fund accountant at one point, if we could get that done. But honestly, it took me a while to get used to Munis, and I know how it works now. And I have actually reached out to other BAs to find out other softwares that they use. So there are 2 different ones. But again, it's hard finding, if you're going to implement the system, it's hard finding that time to implement the system. Yeah. So I'm on it. I'm looking into it. But again, it's just something that takes time. It's more of a, okay, budget season's over. Now I'm trying to get caught up on everything else. And then when, you're trying to get caught up on day tasks, and all of a sudden it's year end, right? So budget season, we're kind of like in a little lull right now, trying to wrap up the audit, right? And all that other stuff. So it's just, I've never found it to be user friendly. And honestly, there will be certain things that change in it that we're not notified that they're changing in it. And then all of a sudden we're kind of like, okay, how do we do this now? And when you put in a ticket, sometimes they're either very quick to respond and sometimes they're not. Payroll, she'll have to wait weeks before they reach out and help her with something very, in my eyes, is very simple.
Would it make sense to have a conversation in the spring?
Yep.
And obviously, it's a conversation, I think it needs to happen because I don't know of anybody that is. I don't deal with it, but I know from your side, it's not what we would like to have, but of course, this costs money to buy it, but like you say,
Exactly.
then it costs money to implement, and what's that cost? And
Yep.
is the benefit of doing that gonna be? But if
Yep.
we can if we can sometime in the spring, have a conversation. I think that's probably, not that it's a great time to do it, but probably the easier time to do it, because if we're gonna make a decision, it needs to be before the budget season. And
Right.
once you get into budget season, I know you don't want to do that, and I know you don't want to do it during when they're here for the audit either.
Next year it's budget season, audit and negotiations. So.
Spring sounds like right? Does that make sense?
Yep.
Joe, you?
That was good to me.
Now that we've covered all those things, back to, I think any other questions on the expenditure side of things? If not, food service next, right?
So food service right now, we are showing that we're going to be this report always messes me up. That we're going to be $38,000 over budget for the general fund transfer. Where's my other sheet? And over there, I just put 100, but I can link that together from the summary of the object code. So I'm hoping we got that vending. I don't know if it's gonna help much, but we got the vending things hooked up. So you can now use your card to purchase in the vending machine. So those are up and running and it's linked now to our checking account, so I can see the money coming in. However, I think fees are being subtracted off of that from what I'm seeing from Tasha. So that's a conversation that her and I will have, which I think that's what we had to do in order to buy the program to do that.
I have a question about the vending machines.
Mhm.
One's, I don't think I haven't looked to see if there's one out there again.
There is not.
It's not.
Last time I took my money, they got rid of it.
Yeah, we're-
The one's over by the gym,
Mhm.
the soda one, we'll call it a soda one for now, the drink one. Seems to break down a lot. Like,
Really?
I haven't been by there in a couple of weeks, but when we were having a wrestling tournament, there had to be 4 bottles of drinks just laying that, slipped down and just fell off to the side. And then there were like 2 or 3 drinks inside the little turntable there that, lets you have your drink. So it was inoperable, even though we had plenty of students thinking they could get some drinks out and make it operable again. I'm like, nope, leave it alone.
Well, that's just it. When they don't get one, what do?
Put more money in and try to get another one.
Or shake it and it's done. We bolted it down, but I still don't know if it's,
Yeah, but I think it's just like either it's not, I mean, it shouldn't keep spitting drinks to the opening anyhow if there's a drink sitting there. And there's definitely a drink sitting. I mean,
I just prefer to get rid of it. They're not worth the hassle. They're broke. Kids are messing with them. To me,
Get rid of them.
The ones out there or?
yeah, I mean, a kid today, I don't know. He said, oh, they just took $5 a minute. I think, well, it's a $5 hold. When you go to get your gas, it's a $50 hold, but he's losing his mind. I'm like, come see me in the morning. I'm like,
Yeah, no.
I'm just not, it doesn't work. Did they spin?
Launch them.
Shake them?
Release them.
I think we lease them or something like that. Unless you got somebody watching them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, kids are gonna be kids.
I'm pretty sure we.
I mean,
own
when
them.
we were growing up, what'd we do?
I used
Take
to,
a little piece of tape, put the dollar bill in.
exactly.
roll it out. And I never did that, but I've heard people. I mean, it's just frustrating. And then when you put 100 people at a wrestling meet, when everybody's there, that first machine's gonna break, what are they gonna do?
Well,
Shake it.
Talk to it nicely.
Yeah.
Talk to it nicely.
call the number on the side.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yes, may I receive assistance?
I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, if we're leasing them it doesn't look like it's like a kid the ones on the bottom, I can see a kid, but the ones that get to the opening, that's.
Well, again, once it's
My mind.
bound up, you're right, it won't shut itself off. It should, but it won't. And I just, yeah.
Kind of engineering 101. If you have something in the queue, why are you spinning them out? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna Terry get rid of them. We'll drag them out tonight if you want.
Yeah. I hate to say this, we almost have been to places where they're in a cage. There's a cage in front of them where you can see it. But you can't get your hands on it other than to put the money in
And get your,
reach out. There's a wall,
I don't wanna live in that world.
but that's what you have to do because that keeps people from,
adjusting.
thank you.
Berg, yeah.
They have like the old fashioned ones where you have, you can't shake the Coke out.
No, I mean, even those, you're gonna
I mean,
jimmy up and
Well, they put the trap door so you can't reach up. They got
then what do they do?
the 2 door. Oh, yeah, but you can only shake it so much.
Once it's shaked, the sensors are off. Then it doesn't know if it's a dollar bill or a piece of paper.
Why did, if a pinball machine from 1968 could have a tilt in it, why don't they do it for a
Yeah,
vending machine?
well, that's.
Can we agree that we'll let Terry make a determination of what
Yeah.
he thinks is best for the,
Yeah,
if it's no longer cost efficient, then why are we doing it?
yeah.
In my mind, right?
And
Just look at it and
Because we got the.
I don't want to get involved.
Boosters almost at every event now. I don't know if they were at the wrestling tournament, but there are a lot of,
we had our own thing going there.
yeah, but again, so everybody was there if they needed a drink. You know what I'm saying?
Covered.
They're doing a fine job. Maybe we put them up in the cap where people are watching them 24/7 and then we shut them off.
But realistically, it's probably gonna cost more to have someone come and service that machine
Oh.
than that thing even brings in as far as revenue.
Yeah, it's $50 a survey. Or whatever.
Can we agree that we'll let Terry make a decision on this?
Yeah.
Or his,
Yeah, it's just, oh, right. Drives me crazy, man.
anything else on food?
Tasha's gonna kill me.
Go ahead, Marjorie.
And then behind that is your ESER three. And that is all updated as to what is approved in the DOE system. So right now remaining is $74,826.
I have a question on this.
Mhm.
Two things were on the increased. The social worker for 2 years went from 149,874 to 221,161. Increase of 71,287. Where did that come from? From last month.
I don't have last month in front of me, so I'll have to take a look at that. I don't know if it wasn't, I noticed there were a couple,
When we had a conversation budget season, it was the 179 and now it's at 74. I know where 33,194 came from. That's the psychologist going for 3 months,
yes, yeah.
but that's a different line. It's the 71,287 that I'm asking about. Where did that go?
Somebody was on maternity leave, and I don't know if that's the explanation.
If we get an explanation on it, please, because I don't remember approving it. So it's a board, so.
Right. And it could be just, something as simple as a health insurance change or staff change. I'm not sure, but I can look into that.
If you would, thank you. Any other questions about Ezra or anything else related to the budget as it stands? All right. Thank you, Marjorie.
Thank you.
Committee reports. Anybody have committee reports? I know you've been at budget committee, but
Yeah, I've just been approaching the public hearing on the 2nd.
is the public hearing the second for the school and the town? Both are
No,
gonna be?
School is the 2nd, town is the 9th, as far as my,
Okay. I wasn't sure. That's why I was
no,
asking.
let me consult my schedule. Yeah, I got town on the 9th, school on the 2nd,
That way you know you're batting first.
and I got a select board meeting before the budget.
Let the good times roll, Tony.
I just-
Keep it coming.
More the merrier, that's what I say.
All right. Anybody else for committee? If not, all right, superintendent's report, Terry.
That's been somewhat slow, so I wish everybody a happy holiday.
That's it? All right, thank you. Manifest, or excuse me, correspondence or other? I was so excited by the manifest.
I know, I was like, whoa, I'm not ready.
Nothing for correspondence or other?
I'm
All right,
gonna think if I do, I don't,
we'll back up if we need to.
all right.
They're not signed. I'm missing one signature.
Okay.
Yours, I think. Payables, $937,635.51. Payroll, $1,004,961.05. For a grand total of $1,942,596.66.
It took me a while to do the math, Marjorie. I apologize. At my expense, of course. No pun intended. All set on that. Next up, approval of minutes, November 28th.
Make a motion to accept the minutes of November 20th, 2020.
Second,
Second,
second by Tony. Was everybody in attendance? I know some of these, not everybody was in attendance. I don't have it in front of me. I'm trying to sign my life away.
yeah, it's pretty much, I'm pretty sure it was, some of the budget committee meeting.
Myself, Steve, and Tony.
Okay, so Cindy and I will abstain. All right. So
Yeah, this is a quorum notice.
Joe,
Yes.
Tony,
Yes.
Cindy.
I think I'm abstaining on this one.
Yep. Steve
Yes.
and I abstain. So it was 3 yes, so motion passes with 2 abstentions, Cindy and myself. November 29th.
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes of November 29th, 2023.
Get a second.
Second,
All right. And is this one everybody? I think everybody is there, right?
Yeah.
All right. Joe,
Yes.
Tony,
yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
and myself, yes, motion passes unanimously. December 6th, public minutes.
I'll make a motion, we accept the minutes of public minutes of December 6th, 2023.
The second?
Second.
Second by Tony. All right. Joe,
Yes.
Tony,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
and myself, yes.
The motion to accept the
Before you do that, I do have a question. Can we unseal them?
I wouldn't.
All right. Is there anything identifying in there?
A
I
family?
don't think so.
I don't remember what it was about.
I can't say, so.
Right then.
Yeah, there's no names in here, but
Oh, yeah, right.
What do you think, Jen? Do you have them in front of you? I don't want them, if you don't have them in front of you.
Well,
I would keep them sealed because it's,
I feel like it might
The
be
action.
ongoing now.
yeah.
Ongoing matter. Could be.
Got it.
okay.
All right.
Pending.
I'll make a motion to, accept the non-public minutes and keep them sealed for December 6th, 2023.
All right, get a second.
Second.
Joe,
Yes.
Tony,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
and myself, yes. All right, next up, December 7th.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes for December 7th, 2023.
Second.
Second by Tony. This one where not everybody is there, right? Except for Steve,
Steve was not.
All right.
there. Budget committee.
Joe?
Yeah.
Tony,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Steve,
Sorry, I was on mute. I abstain.
and then myself, yes. So motion passes 4 yes, and then 1 abstention, which is Steve. All right, and then the last thing we have on the minutes is we approve these minutes for November 16th, 2023. But our crack SAU team found an error in them. And the motion on page 4 regarding the operating budget should read, motion passed with Tony Clements, Joe Solinger, and Steve Scarfo voting in the affirmative, and John Harmon and Cindy Bennett voting in opposition. So we need to amend those minutes. Is that the proper way to do that?
I'll make a motion to amend the minutes for November 16th, 2023 as presented.
Second by Tony. Jill,
Yes.
Tony,
What are we amending exactly?
the motion on the operating budget.
Oh, just.
It went, it was,
Language.
the vote indicated it was a 4-1 vote, but it was
Oh,
actuality a 3-2 vote.
All right.
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
and myself, yes. So motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Did all those manifests get signed, Margaret?
Thanks.
Good. Get a motion to go into non-public.
I'll make a motion to go in non-public session under RSA 1.3, numeral 2, C and M.
Second.
Second by Tony. Joe,
Yes.
Tony,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
and myself, yes.
How do we bring them in there?
We'll have to figure that part out.
Okay.
I've got it.
Okay, thank you. All right. You've got it worked out with Cindy and Steve also? Okay, great.
Excellent.
I think I'll-